Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back in to the garage. Today's video is going to be a good one. We are going to be covering the steps on how to successfully remove and reinstall coil packs, spark plug wires, and spark plugs on your third generation Toyota 4Runner. Now this job could be also applicable for other Toyota makes and models, and that would be the makes and models that also have the V6 3.4 liter 5VZFE engine in it. If that's your engine, then this is your video, so stick around. Now, I realized on my own vehicle that I was experiencing a Toyota problem, which to me is kind of like a first world problem. In other words, nothing really bad was happening. I wasn't experiencing any misfires or really anything in regards to this system, but what I was kind of seeing was a lack of miles per gallon. We would say a reduction on the normal miles per gallon I would get. And what I really realized was that I had never replaced the coil packs or the spark plug wires on my third gen. Now I'm the second owner and I've got 257,000 miles on the odometer. I purchased it about 15 years ago and I put 105,000 miles on there. So these components lasted at least 105,000 miles, and that's not knowing what or when the previous owner might have addressed in regards to these components. So I've been really pleased with the fact that they've lasted so long, and that is a Toyota problem. That's Toyota reliability. Now with that said, on this job, you'll see that I chose to replace these components with genuine Toyota OEM parts, and yes, I did source them from a genuine Toyota source, okay? So I got the real stuff. And I highly recommend that. You know, one of the other third generation 4Runner owners online said it best. They said, cry a little now and cry a little less later, right? And that really refers to the fact that you might spend a little more now, but you're gonna cry a lot less in the long run in regards to saving money or avoiding something catastrophic happening on your vehicle. In fact, that you're doing it with the preventive maintenance and the right parts and the right components. So that's what I chose to do on this vehicle, and I'm so happy because now that I have these replaced, I've got the peace of mind that this is gonna last a really long time. And any kind of increase I get in miles per gallon or efficiency is just a bonus, because my main concern, and I bet it's your concern also, is that my engine just performs and that I get the longest out of my vehicle as humanly possible by putting the right stuff in there. So with that said, man, I really hope you guys enjoy this video. And as always, my hope is that what you see me do here allows you to do it with confidence on your own rig, and that you can do it and save yourself some money along the way. You might choose other parts, other brands, but ultimately, whether you're just replacing your spark plugs, or you're replacing just the 3 spark plug wires on the driver's side, or you choose to replace it all, this video right here will show you exactly how to do it and how to do it confidently. Thank you guys so much for all of your subscriptions, your likes, your engagement. I'm really, really proud to have all of you in the Van Winkle Garage community, and it means a lot to know that I'm able to help you guys. Your comments and your feedback mean the world to me, and I love seeing that feedback and knowing that you're out there driving and feeling better about your car because something I did was able to help you. So that really means a lot, man. Hey, I'll leave a link in the description to all of these parts and components in regards to where I got them. And I really hope that you guys are able to do this. And if you do, and you do it on your rig, man, come back and leave me a comment and let me know how it went. Let me know if you experienced any roadblocks that maybe I didn't, and hopefully we can work through those together. So as always, thanks so much, and I'll catch you next time. So here's the parts that we're going to be using today on our job, and this is going to be how we're going to successfully change over our spark plugs, our plug wires, and our ignition coils. So here's the parts we're using today. We are using the cord set. It's an OEM Toyota part, 19037-62050. You can go the Denso route, but I chose to go with OEM parts today on this job. We're also going with the NGK Spark Plugs. This is the 3967, and you can see the part number there. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can find those. And for our ignition coils, we are going with the OEM part, the 90919-02212, and we're going to replace all 3. So here's the parts that we have for today. Let's get after it. All right, guys, so we're going to start out on the driver's side with this process, and that's just because to me, it's a little simpler. Honestly, it's all pretty simple, but we're going to start out there. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to release this hose clamp here that is attached to our throttle body. And the goal here is that we're going to remove this air tube here in order to gain access to the ignition coils. We're not going to remove the entire thing, but just this tube, it's going to get us clearance that we need to be able to access where we need to. So we're loosening that screw here. We're going to come down to the other side and loosen this screw here, which holds on that hose clamp. All right. And we have a couple of more connection points here that we need to take care of. We need to loosen this connection here by squeezing these two tabs on the end for the mass airflow sensor. And just like that. We're going to pull this connection out here. And we're going to come around and do the same over here. There we go. Your goal in doing those 3 connection points is to loosen that wire loom and get it hanging free, disconnected from this air tube. Now we're going to come over here and disconnect that hose there. All right, so next we want to take care of this hose here, and I'm going to start at the air box, and we're going to squeeze that hose clamp, disconnect our hose here from the air box, remove it from its holding location, and we're going to go ahead and take it all the way over towards the charcoal canister and leave it sitting just like that. Next, we're going to take care of this hose here. Be very careful with your hoses if you think they're brittle. I keep pretty good care of mine. In this case, that hose does have a little crack right in the end of it, and honestly, I need to replace that in general. So we're going to put that on the maintenance list. But for now, we just want to remove it for this job. And now what we have is this center hose here and box free, and we can go ahead and remove it. All right, and now that we have that done, we're going to go ahead and grab it. Both hands, pull it towards ourselves. Now that that's free, we're going to come down towards the air box. I'm going to take that same panel puller tool here, and again, just create some space here. There we go. We're just loosening the connection. I find that taking a little time to do that is a lot easier than just yanking and prying on stuff aggressively. Looks like that clamp is still a little tight. I needed to loosen it up a little bit more. There we go. Now that that's loose, it should come off a lot easier. There we go. Okay, so we've got that portion removed. We're going to go ahead and sit it to the side. All right, with that part removed, we now have easy access and visibility to our ignition coils. And you can see the 3 of them right here. Now, these are going to be real easy to take off, but you do want to be mindful of brittle components because of where these are located. Now, you want to first remove the electrical connection here, and that's by pushing with your thumb on this edge, top right, and pulling up. Top right, and pull up. And we're going to do it on the one nearest the firewall. All right, so now we have those 3 disconnected. Now the next point is going to be right here where the spark plugs from the other side of the engine route over and plug into our coils. Now this is actually quite tricky because these can break very easily. What I like to do is I like to take this pick tool that I have in a kit that I got off of Amazon, and I like to take this one and feed it up underneath here in order to get the teeth released and popped up from where they are. Let me get you guys a better view as to what that looks like. So here's a better view of exactly what I'm talking about. And let me just tell you, it's very, very easy to break these legs here. I'm gonna call these 2 things legs, here and here. And the reason it's easy is because they become very brittle over time, and also if you're trying to remove them the wrong way. Now, down in this channel here is actually the keeper spot for this to clip over. And what you need to do is you need to come up underneath the location here where you can see my pick tool, and that little lip right there needs to be lifted up and away from the surface, and then you can pull up on this and remove it. All right, so we're gonna take that pick tool and we're gonna do just what we just talked about there. We're gonna get underneath, pry up gently, and just like that, we'll remove them. Now we're gonna remove all three. Actually, that one was broken, as you can see. And we're gonna remove this one right here. And I'm gonna show you guys that that one actually broke on me just then. So sometimes, no matter how safe you are, these old brittle components will snap and they will break. Okay, so next up we're gonna go ahead and remove the ignition coils here, and we're gonna remove all three. This is a 10mm bolt that holds it into place, and it's pretty easy to break it free here. Not difficult at all. That bolt, as you can see, is not exactly a long bolt, so make certain that you don't drop it down anywhere. These 4Runners are pretty simple. If you do drop something, it's pretty easy to find it, but you know, just save yourself some time. All right, now that we have all of our bolts removed, all that's left to do is simply remove your coils. Now, as you can see, this coil is awfully brown in its tone, and that is definitely a sign of its wear and its age. And man, it's time to be replaced. Now, I can tell you this with confidence. I've owned this vehicle since it had 152,000 miles on it, and now on the clock it has 257. So slightly over 100,000 miles that I've driven this car, and I have never replaced these coils. Now, with that said, as I said earlier, I don't have any issue with misfires or any check engine lights coming up here, but I went to do this spark plug job, and you know, I thought to myself, I've never replaced the wires or the coils, and so for me this is an excellent time to do so with OEM products and make certain that the reliability of this vehicle continues long into the future with a completely fresh system and all new components to work together. So it is definitely time to remove these. I'm going to keep these because, well, they're still working, at least I think they are, and you know, you never know, just in case. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pause on the passenger side, and we're going to move over to the driver's side, and we're going to start removing these components that we need in order to access the spark plugs and the wires. Now, we're going to start with this diagnosis box, and there's a little tab on the back that you need to pull towards the towards the passenger side. And once you pull that little tab towards the passenger side there, you can pull it up and off of its mounting bracket. We're just going to let that hang down there for the time being. Next up, we're going to go ahead and remove this bracket here. It is a 10mm bolt. And I'm going to go ahead and thread that 10mm bolt right back into that location so that there's no chance of me losing it or forgetting it later on. We're going to take this bracket off of this hose and set it to the side. Okay, next up we're going to address this bracket here, and it is held in two locations. The first one is going to be up top here on the plenum, and it is a 12mm bolt. We are taking a shallow 12mm socket and loosening it. What we're going to do is take this 12mm bolt all the way out. Here we go. Now this is held on in two locations, as I said. The other location is quite a bit lower down. It's up against the block, and it is a 14mm bolt. And we are going to find that bolt location here. And what we want to do is simply loosen it up. And we're loosening it up just so we have some play, if you will, in this bracket. I'm not gonna take it all the way off today. All right, now that that's loose, you have this hose right here that slides into that bracket. And we're gonna go ahead and remove that hose from the bracket there. And lastly, we are going to remove this hose that travels from the brake booster to the plenum. There we go. One more thing here, we are going to remove this hose from its keeper location, and we're going to try to route it a little bit up and out of the way, just a little bit elevated there, a little bit higher. There's actually one more location we need to address, and that is right here, this 10mm bolt head here that holds these wires on for your diagnostic tool. Let's go ahead and take that out. There we go. And with that out of the way, it'll allow us a better ease of accessibility right here. All right, now with everything out of the way, we are going to start right here by removing these clips. Now, some of you guys may not have these on your 3rd generation 4Runner, and some of you might, but it's pretty simple. All they need to do is push up and away from the shroud here. There we go. And that way it'll give us a little bit of a easier space and room to work with here as we move along. We also have one location over here that clips in. All right, now with those connection points free, we're going to start here by removing our spark plug tubes one at a time here. All right, now we're going to go ahead and get the spark plug boot that is closest to the firewall. This one is probably the most difficult one to access. And what you're going to do is just move around those hoses and components that you've loosened up. And eventually you'll understand how that it allows you the space to get it out. I've already gotten it free. I'm just going to go ahead and there we go. Move it out of the way. All right, now with all 3 of our spark plug boots free, we should be able to successfully remove our entire contraption here with all of these connection points attached. All right, that looks like a success. All right, so now that we're already on the driver's side, we're gonna stay on the driver's side and we're gonna get to removing all of our spark plugs. So we're gonna start right here at the front, and I've got my 5/8 inch spark plug socket. We're gonna feed it down here nice and gentle. We're gonna find where it seats on the spark plug, and we're gonna start to unthread it. Now I'm working with 2 extensions here. I have a 6 inch and a 3 inch extension on my ratchet. You might want to play around with what extension you use on which spark plug. You might need different ones for different purposes. Well, I can tell you from pulling this spark plug out, guys, that it is absolutely toast. So let's go ahead and get the new plug put in. If you'd like to see a comparison on the old versus the new spark plug, this should tell you everything you need to know about the shape of the old one. All right, that's enough looking at the past. Let's look towards the future. Now, the way that I install my spark plugs is to start by placing the new spark plug down into my spark plug socket. Now, the spark plug socket is important because, as you can see, when you turn it around, it doesn't fall out. We've got this crush washer here on the end, and what I'm going to do is take off my ratchet, and we're just going to feed this down into the tube by hand until we find its seat. Now, the reason I like to do this by hand is because I don't want to cross thread it. Typically, when doing spark plug jobs, you're not working with a whole lot of room. Depends on the vehicle. But you don't want to cross thread your new spark plug. That would be disastrous. So doing it by hand usually allows you to have a better feel as to how the new spark plug is going in. And in this case, we feel good. And what I'm going to do is just get it finger tightened here. And then I'm going to come up with my ratchet and attach it. I didn't mean to rhyme, but that was pretty good. And we're going to get it a little tighter here. There we go. What I'm doing is I'm basically going to tighten it up here just until I feel resistance. I'm not yet going to torque it down. I'll do that at the end. All right, on to spark plug number 2. And what we're going to do here is we are going to drop our spark plug socket with our 6-inch extension down into the tube, and then I'm going to come behind it and attach my ratchet. There we go. And from there, we are going to remove the spark plug. All right, so it feels like we're pretty much there. I'm gonna go and see if I need to do any more by hand. So we're gonna loosen it a little bit by hand here. And now we're gonna try to feed it out, see if we've got the plug. Not yet. That might be it there. Yep, there it is. Well, this spark plug was also definitely ready to be changed, but doesn't look as bad as that first one we pulled out. Spark plug number 2, old versus new. Let's get on with it. Same process here, and we're gonna follow that same process along this entire path of this job. Nice and easy, dropping it down into the tube. And we're threading it in by hand here, being very mindful of how it feels when it's screwing in. So far, so good. All right, now we're going to get the ratchet placed in, and we are going to finish tightening it here in the same manner that we did our first spark plug. All right, we're just getting it a little tight there. And like I said, we're going to come back and torque them all down at the end. On to number 3. All right, now on to number 3 here, and 3 is the one I'm calling closest to the firewall. We're gonna drop it down. We actually have 2 6-inches and a 3-inch extension together, And the reason why I like it this way is just because it gets me up and clear of all the hoses and all the issues that are down low. So if you have the ability to either get one long extension, like maybe a 12-inch and a 3-inch together, or if you're like me and you have a lot of extensions laying around, I got 2 6s and a 3, just to show you. And it works really, really well on this one back near the firewall. All right, so we've gotten it loose and we're gonna finish it here by hand. Pull it out nice and easy. And there's our third one. Old versus new comparison on spark plug number 3. Let's go. So here we go, placing our plug securely into our spark plug socket. And now we are going to feed it carefully down inside the spark plug tube. And we're doing the same pattern here, guys, just tighten it up by hand. And we're going to tighten it up, finish it off here. There it is. All right, our spark plugs are now installed and it is time to torque them down. And the torque spec on our spark plugs for our 3rd Gen 4Runners is 13 foot-pounds. And there we go. We just want to go until we hear it click. First one's done. On to number 2. Torquing to 13 foot-pounds. Last but not least, our spark plug in the very back. All right, now that we're all torqued down with our new spark plugs on our driver's side, we're gonna move back over to the passenger side, remove and replace the spark plugs over there. So we're back on the passenger side, and after taking everything off on the driver's side, coming back here and doing it is gonna feel like an absolute breeze. So here we are, we're gonna start up here at the front of the vehicle. And just like we did on the driver's side, we are going to go one spark plug at a time. Get you a good view there. Nice and toasted. Let's get it changed out. All right, another old versus new comparison on the spark plugs. Let's go. Once again, feeding it down here by hand and just getting it hand tightened, and we're gonna follow the exact same process we did on the other side. And just like that, one spark plug down. Let's move to spark plug number 2 right here in the middle. All right, spark plug number 2. Spark plug number 2 comparison, old versus new. Let's go. You know, I think there's still people out there that operate without either a magnetic or a spark plug socket of some sort. And to be honest, why would you? I have no idea why anybody would still be doing that. If you don't have one, you need to get one. Makes your life so much easier holding onto those plugs as they come out. Spark plug number 3, pretty rough. And here is our last old versus new comparison on our spark plugs. All right, let's get them torqued down. All right, as a reminder, it is 13 foot-pounds on our torque. Well, who doesn't love a little unboxing? So we're gonna go ahead and show you guys the unboxing here of our brand new coils. Look at that. Beautiful. A little different labeling these days, it appears. That decal certainly is quite a bit larger. But just kind of giving you guys a bit of a comparison here. And, you know, if you want to take a look at it versus that brown guy, quite a bit different. So, man, I'm excited, you know, to have new components. One thing that I really try to do is I try to make sure that when I replace something in the system, I try to really replace every component that goes with that system. You know, to me, it's just best practice. Now, I know that's not always possible, not only in your life, but in my life. It could be for many different reasons, most of which typically is the fact that we don't want to spend a lot of money on replacing components and parts that we might not need to. But I'll tell you, just at first glance, I know these things are a bit pricey, but definitely an upgrade. Super excited. So let's get them off the workbench and get these new coils installed. Well, if you guys remember the process of removing these coils, you will remember that these are not difficult to put back. So we are going to slide these back in place. Here we go. Now, really what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that they are seating properly. And we're gonna take these 10mm bolts here and thread them in by hand to start. All right. And we're gonna go ahead and get these tightened up. Now, if there's a torque spec on these, I don't know what it is, and honestly, to be honest, I wouldn't bother looking it up. One thing to keep in mind is, you know, this is a plastic housing on this coil. You want to tighten it down to be snug and firm, but you don't want to over torque it. If you do, you're going to crack it. And let's just be honest, no matter what brand you get, these are far too expensive of coils to be replacing just because of a bad mistake like that. All right, so now that we have those tightened up, we're gonna go ahead and reconnect our electrical here to the top. And that is as simple as it sounds. You just wanna put it on there until you hear it snap. There we are. All right, let's go get our plug wires. All right, back at the workbench, and here are our old wires, and we're gonna go ahead and crank open our new set. Once again, that's Toyota part number 19037-62050. And here's the thing that, you know, I really love about buying OEM is that you might notice on the OEM product, it comes with all of these keepers here already installed with your wires already perfectly labeled and aligned and placed. And really, I mean, you can't beat that. Now, I don't know how the Denso product comes. Maybe it comes the same way, but you guys should know by now, I am an absolute sucker for the OEM product, and that's what we've got here. So, man, these look fantastic. I'll just give you a little side-by-side here of old versus new. Yeah. You know, this one right here was starting to show some signs of some wear a little bit more. So yeah, fantastic. Brand new wire set. Let's get it over to the vehicle off the workbench and let's go install it. All right, so we are back on the driver's side, and we're gonna go ahead and start trying to put our spark plug tubes back into location. Now, this side is the one that is a little, well, you would say, a more tricky, more tedious. I'm not going to obviously install these clips until I get my plug wires installed, but I'm gonna start by feeding the one in the very back, and we're gonna try to work our way closer, essentially from the back to the front. Now, not very difficult, just take your time. With all the things that you've loosened up, it should be plenty. And there we go. Now, what you're wanting to hear when you seat this spark plug boot on top of the spark plug is you want to hear that snap. There it is right there. And man, that sounds good. Now, one cool thing is there's actually, when you buy OEM, there's this little clip right here that you can see goes into this bracket. And I'll show this to you, a better view here in just a moment. But the really cool thing is I did not have that. I did not have that on my former wire set. So that's cool. Nice thing to keep everything organized, which I absolutely love. All right, we've got the second one in. Let's go ahead and get it seated down. There we go. Yep, that feels good there. All right, now on the last one, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our diagnosis tool here, and we're going to pull it up out of the way and feed our last spark plug tube down in and snap it in place. There we go. All right, now before I connect this and we move back over to the other side, I want to get you guys a better view of what I'm talking about. All right, so here's the bracket that's attached to the lower plenum, and there's that little guy here, that little keeper that we are going to feed right into this slot. There it is. And look at that. I never even knew that there was a little thing for that. So now I do. And that's for the back spark plug wire. All right, moving on. All right, so we are here on the passenger side now, and we've got our 3 wires. Now, these are so simple because it's quite apparent where each one of them goes. And we're gonna start with the closest one here. You just wanna push it on and compress it until you hear that snap. Just as easy as that. Number 2 in the middle, another snap, and number 3 right there. Now, this little connection point is on the shroud, and we're gonna slide it right through there.
And just like that, guys, we have a successful spark plug wire and coil transformation here. Let's get it all put back together. Well, we are staying on the driver's side, and we are going to start our reconnection here of our air tube. And what I like to do is start at the bottom here and work my way into the throttle body, just like that. You got to line up that little notch right there in your airbox tube all the way up against the notch on top of the throttle body. It is very, very easy, common sense here. Now, after making this connection point, one thing I like to do is take my flashlight and get every angle I can underneath and around to make certain that I've made a really secure connection and flush and seated all the way up against the throttle body. Now that I know I'm good, let's go ahead and get this hose clamp tightened back up. Now we're going to come down here and we're going to tighten up the second hose clamp near the airbox. With our hose clamps secure, we can go ahead and start to place our wire looms back in place at all of its connection points, including our mass airflow sensor connection here. And we are going to route this tube right back into place where it all started. Now we're going to come back over here to our passenger side, and I am going to go ahead and hook up this tube to the airbox. All right, now we have all of our connection points on the passenger side taken care of. Let's move over to the driver's side. All right, so we are on the driver's side now, and we're going to finish everything up and connect all of our hoses back. We're going to start right here with this hose that's going to slide back onto the air breather. Now we know that this hose sits right here, but we got a little bit of work to do before we get to this top end point. And I'm actually going to start by tightening the 14mm bolt that's on this bracket here first. Now before tightening it, I'm going to slide this hose back into its keeping location here on this bracket. And you'll be able to tell here on the lower plenum where this bolts up to. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and thread in this 12mm bolt first before tightening up the 14mm below. Now we're going to come down to the bottom and get the 14mm bolt on the bottom of the bracket tightened up that we had loosened earlier in order to have a little bit more play in that bracket. All right, now we're going to bring this bracket back over into play because we're going to want to connect that real soon. What I'm going to do next is take our air hose here and connect it. This is the hose that goes to your brake booster once again. And we're going to go ahead and connect that back to our lower plenum. Get our hose clamp back in place. Make sure that's nice and seated there. Next, we're going to take our 10mm bolt. Remember, we threaded this back into the location on the lower plenum that it holds into for our bracket. Here's our bracket. And we are going to get this put back in place. There we go. Now with that back in place, we can take this hose, route it back into its location, which is right in between those two metal brackets. We're going to take this hose, route it underneath. Now we also have this hose that's going to come back up top here into its keeper. And we also need to get our diagnostics tool here back into its location. This is a 10 millimeter, and what we're going to do is we're going to start down low because we took out the bolt on the lower plenum that holds these wires in. And we are going to tighten that back into space first. I like to make sure that it's lined up nicely there. And it is. And now last here, we'll take it and slide that back over the top of our bracket, and it connects into place. And there you have it, guys. That is how you successfully take out and replace your spark plugs, your spark plug wires, and your ignition coils on these beautiful engines. Super proud of this job, and I'm excited to hear this motor purr with all of this new equipment ready to get going. Let's start it up.